This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
This is Let the Record Show. Now, here are your hosts, Judge Richard Weinberg,
essayist and commentator Eric Levine,
and Suffolk County Republican Committee Chairman Jesse Garcia.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia, who is not here. Jesse is the Vice Chair of the State Republican Party, the County Chair of the Suffolk Party. With us is noted attorney, commentator, and essayist Eric Levine. Our special guest in the studio is my good friend, Governor David Paterson, the former governor of the state of New York, lieutenant governor of the state of New York, and minority leader of the state Senate. And despite the rumors I've tried to create today, he is not going to be the new Republican in this studio for this show, nor is he going to be the chairman of the Republican National Committee.
So there'll be one Democrat in the room, is what you're saying.
Well, and I'm a Democrat in name only. That's correct.
Yes.
We're honored and privileged to have Brigadier General Yossi Kepovasser, who is a former leader of the military of the IDF in Israel. General, we're very happy to have you here. I'll turn you over to Eric in a moment. My position is very, very simple. I've been very clear on this from the very beginning. I've always seen this fight. This is not Israel's fight. This is the fight of Western civilization. When they say death to Israel and death to America, they mean it. There's been an infiltration throughout the Middle East and now in Europe, and they're trying to do it in the United States of America, of Islamist extremists. They're an existential threat to all people who believe in the Judeo-Christian ethic and the ethics and decency of tolerance and free speech and freedom of religion. And my own view is this is a war that had to be fought, and it's a war that needs to be won. And you can't cut a deal with the devil. And if you don't take them seriously, they will come back at you time and time again. This is for real. We shouldn't miss this opportunity to take them out entirely. Those are my views. Eric, would you introduce the general and take the first round of questioning?
Sure. So, Yossi, welcome. In addition to Yossi being a former IDF Brigadier General, he is currently the head of the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security. It's one of the leading think tanks in the world, in particular, of course, in Israel. So welcome, Yossi, and glad to have you on the show. So let's talk about Iran. So to set the table, let's concede the following points. Following Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran's nuclear program was set back months, years. I'm not 100% sure, but significantly. And most recently, as part of Operation Epic Fury, Iran's anti-aircraft and missile defense systems have been destroyed. Their navy has been sunk. Their air force obliterated. Their ballistic missile stockpile reduced. Their ballistic missile launchers badly damaged. Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent has done a fabulous job on Operation Economic Fury, further destroying their economy. And militarily, economically, we're definitely in a better position today than we were the day before the attack on Iran. And we were winning on every front, and then Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz, and we stopped. And President Trump has now entered into an MOU with Iran. So I'm curious from the Israeli perspective, how are the Israelis viewing the president stopping the kinetic activity and the MOU?
Well, I think that in Israel there's a consensus that this move by the president was a mistake, and that what needs to be done was to continue hitting Iran to the point where the Iranians would beg for a ceasefire and would be ready for a ceasefire to really give up the nuclear project, put an end to the ballistic missiles project, stop financing their proxies around the Middle East. And that would be something, and open, of course, the Hormuz Strait. This would be a way to finish the war in a way that would mean for every Iranian that the Iranians have lost, the Islamic regime of Iran lost, and there's a hope for the Iranian people as well. That would have been a reasonable outcome of this war. And since this was not happening, there's this feeling of frustration, bitterness. After all, we did our job fighting shoulder to shoulder with the U.S. armed forces, and in a very impressive way. We inflicted very heavy damage on the Iranian ballistic missiles production facilities, on the Iranian nuclear facilities, and the air defenses of the Iranians. And the Americans took care of the Navy and the Air Force, and there was no reason to stop. But unfortunately, not only that we stopped, we gave legitimacy to the Americans gave legitimacy to the Iranian Islamic regime, something that should not have happened. The Iranians are allowed to have a role in Lebanon, which is a huge mistake from an Israeli point of view, and should have been a mistake, should have been seen as a mistake also by the Americans as well. And there's a new tension in the relationship between Israel and the United States. So we feel that we did our job, and now that we are not needed anymore, we are thrown under the bus. That's the feeling in Israel. The good thing that the outcome is that everybody in Israel feels the same way. We are, after a long time, united.
So when you say everyone sees it the same way, you're talking politically from the political left to the political right. Everyone sees it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So you made reference to Lebanon, and I mean, to me, I think I also agree that I believe that the MOU is a mistake. I think we should have finished the job. But they closed the Strait of Hormuz, and I think the president was concerned about the price of oil and the midterm elections. But I think it's somewhat short-sighted only for the following reason. Is you have an election in Israel in October and an election in the United States in November. Hezbollah remains in place in safety because of the ceasefire. And starting in sometime in September, maybe earlier, but Hezbollah is going to start attacking Israel. And Israel, whether it's Prime Minister Netanyahu or any other prime minister from left to right on the political spectrum, will be required to respond. And then when Israel responds, Iran will close the Strait of Hormuz again, probably in October, just on the eve of the American election, drive up the price of oil, put the world economy again at risk, and everyone will blame Israel. That's my concern. Because it seems to me that the president, obviously it was not his intention, but in many ways may have given Iran a weapon more powerful than a nuclear bomb. That's the
Closing Hormuz.
Closing the Strait of Hormuz. He gives them the impression that they can control it. And if he then decides he has to open it militarily, now it's months later, on the eve of the election instead of months before the election. I'm curious, do you see Iran using the Strait of Hormuz as a weapon going forward?
For sure, they were given. Said they need an atomic bomb, not in order to play with a new toy, but they need it in order to exert their influence on the Middle East and beyond, and globally. And by doing what the Americans did, they actually gave them a very strategic weapon. It may lead to a slippery slope in which, whenever something doesn't look nice to them, they would immediately threaten to close the strait, and everybody would have to do what they ask.
General,
in Lebanon, they are going to ask that Israel would withdraw from Lebanon, even though the Hezbollah problem was not solved. And if Israel doesn't show readiness to do that, then immediately they're going to close the strait.
As we're talking,
whatever we see it even today. By the way, today the Omanis gave an offer to the vessels in the Gulf to go out through their side of the strait, and the Iranians didn't find it suitable, so they immediately said we are closing the strait. This is crazy. We just gave them an enormously effective tool that they shouldn't have gotten.
So I just want to come back to Lebanon for a second. While the Hezbollah is being protected with the ceasefire, simultaneously there are tripartite discussions going on between the United States, Lebanon, and Israel to try and reach a peace agreement between Israel and Lebanon. If Hezbollah remains an occupying force within Lebanon, which it is, that is the occupying force in Lebanon, is it possible for Lebanon and Israel to ever make a peace with Hezbollah there always prepared to frustrate it?
Well, we can make peace on the paper, but it doesn't have. It's not going to have any meaning on the ground. On the ground, the power is in the hands of Hezbollah and Iran after this memorandum of understanding between the United States and Iran. Especially as this memorandum also speaks about, not this memorandum, but the agreements that followed it speak about establishing a cell for dealing with deconfliction in Lebanon. So it's crazy. It's in a way, it's pulling the rug out from underneath the negotiations in Washington. What are they talking about? It's totally empty words. It's what is left in Washington, unfortunately.
So while
we're moving in the right direction, these talks were going in the right direction. Unfortunately, now they have no meaning.
So to that point, Richard just handed to me a news story that's being reported by the Wall Street Journal that Iran has attacked cargo ships in the Strait of Hormuz. So I think that kind of answers the questions we've been asking. I guess the straits are going to close relatively soon. But one final question before I turn it over back to Richard or to the governor. So the interlocutors, the people that were negotiating between the United States and Iran for the MOU were Pakistan, where we found Osama bin Laden, where he was being given protection, and Pakistan, of course, is also a Chinese ally. Qatar and Turkey, which are both pro-Hamas and pro-Muslim Brotherhood countries. And Saudi Arabia, and that's where I want to focus on this question. It seems to me, by Saudi Arabia participating in these negotiations, they have basically sent the message, we're going to hedge our bets. We understand that irrespective of how great any deal that President Trump may make, he's going to be gone in 2.5 years, but this regime will still be there. So this tells me that Saudi Arabia is abandoning the thought of entering the Abraham Accords. There's no reason to do it because they are going to make their accommodation with Iran. Do you interpret that in the same way?
Well, I think at least they are considering it. We see the ongoing negotiations and the deliberations between Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Turkey, and Egypt. And Qatar is also involved in that. And they are trying to build a Sunni axis that would not actually replace, but be next to the Shiite axis led by Iran. And this is, and they are going to have plenty of money because of the Iranians are going to have plenty of money for recuperating their axis, and this is going to be a very dangerous situation. You're right. The Saudis are much less interested in going back into the negotiations about joining the Abraham Accord, and much more interested in building relationships with the Iranians, and especially with the Turks that are becoming more and more problematic from the point of view of stability in the Middle East, and definitely from the point of view of Israel. Support Hamas and
Governor Patterson, questions for the General.
General, it's nice to meet you. About a month ago, President Trump had this big press conference. This was after the 60 days had expired. And he said Iran is done. They've been driven into the ground. Their Navy doesn't work. Their weapons don't work. Everything is wrong with them, and they are trying to get a deal. He kept saying they're trying to get a deal. But what has happened since then to now, it's almost as if we were trying to get a deal when we didn't need one, when we had them on the ropes and honestly could have finished the job. And not too many people, I think, would have retaliated if we had done that. And I just think it's a shame because the conversation is not equaling the effort of support that we should be giving. And the conversation sounds like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. It's just not what I think this country should be doing in this situation.
Well, that's the feeling, of course. And we had to do it, or the President Trump decided he had to do it because he was worried about the markets. The prices of oil were going up, and markets were not happy with the war, and approval rates for the war in the United States were low. So he had these considerations. I think he made a mistake because after you invest so much in this effort to inflict damage to the Iranian regime and to the Iranian capabilities, strategic capabilities, should finish the job. That's a mistake to stop in the middle.
Particularly since they can do it again in October.
He can do it back in October, but he can do it back tomorrow morning. But
right. Anytime they want.
But October is close to when the presidential elections are going to come up, and
that's what makes it magical.
I think why Eric raised that.
Yeah, that's what makes it magical.
So I want to, in a final question to you, General, I want to raise this issue, which I find very troubling. As an American, as I look at this, I look at what's going on in the Middle East. When your enemies say, death to America, death to the United States, they mean it. You should take them seriously. When they've militarized their country, when they've created these groups, these terrorist groups all around the Middle East to encircle Israel, when the last bastion of real strength is Hezbollah in Lebanon, I find it very troubling when people think that the United States government has a right to tell Israel, don't respond to these attacks by the forces of evil, the Hezbollah forces, a force that's invaded and colonized and controlled an independent country. The Lebanese people want these clowns out of there. As long as they live, they're a weapon for Iran, and they're a tool of Iran. They're not an indigenous group. They are invaders in that sovereign country, which was a peaceful country up until Arafat marched in and created the chaos there. From the perspective of Israel, if they try to back channel and try to direct, that is, the United States tries to direct Israel, stand down, leave them alone, what's going to be the response of the government of Israel?
Well, Israel has made it clear that, first of all, we are not going to withdraw from the areas we have now control in Lebanon until the conditions justify, namely until Hezbollah is disarmed and we move from the southern part of Lebanon. And secondly, clearly that if we are going to be attacked or if we are going to see an intention to attack us on behalf of Hezbollah, we should not wait until we are attacked. We should take necessary steps in order to eliminate the threat. And that's something clear to everybody. And if this is going to cause the Iranians to close the strait, so be it. But eventually, I think that it's going to be a necessity for the United States to make sure that these straits are open and not playing toy in the hands of Iran. This has to be the final result. Because as long as we leave this the control of the strait in the hands of the Iranians, at any given time they can cause havoc.
So I want to come back to something you said at the top of the segment, where you talked about Israel's feeling a little bit thrown under the bus and not being treated well. I just want our listeners to know, I was at an event Monday evening, and I was speaking to a friend of mine who had just come back from Taiwan. He was born in Taiwan, but he's a naturalized American citizen. I asked him, how are the Taiwanese viewing this, the MOU? He said, we're very, very worried. They're very, very worried because their answer is, Israel's much closer to the United States than Taiwan is. And if the United States is prepared to turn their back on Israel, what does that tell us about what they're prepared to do in the event of a Chinese invasion? So this has ramifications around the world. So
also, on the other hand, China and Russia feel emboldened by the inability of the United States to deal with the Iranian threat.
yeah, I guess the theory is that if you just hold on long enough for China were to invade Taiwan and the United States were to come to its assistance, one takeaway potentially for the Chinese is we just need to stay a little bit longer because eventually the Americans will give up. They just don't have staying power, and that's clearly the wrong message for our country to be sending.
And it's a wrong message to be sending in different directions. There are other places probably that feel the same way Taiwan does.
Sure, I think that's true. General, thank you so much. To our listeners, I encourage you to look up the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security. Some marvelous, thoughtful pieces on the Middle East and the world in general. It's a fantastic publication. It's a fantastic think tank. And Yossi, thank you so much for being with us. This was terrific, and we hope to have you back.
God bless you, General. God bless the people of Israel. And we wish you well, and thank you very much for joining us on today's show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Yossi. That was great.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. We're taking a break. This is Let the Record Show with Chairman Garcia in absentia, replacing him, but not as the national chairman, state chairman, or county chairman of Suffolk County, is Democratic Governor David Patterson, former chair of the State Democratic Party, noted attorney, commentator, essayist Eric Levine. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. We'll be back in a few moments with more interesting and important conversation. Please stay with us.
Let the Record Show is on the air.
This episode is brought to you by Google Health. Stop chasing someone else's definition of health. What matters is what's healthy for you. Google Health offers a new kind of coach built with Gemini for effortless tracking, sleep insights, and holistic coaching tailored to you. Visit googlestore.com to learn more and start a new relationship with your health. Requires Google account, Google Health app, internet, and Google Health premium subscription. Features subject to change. Availability and results vary. Not intended for medical purposes. Works independently of Gemini apps. Check responses for accuracy.
Need a laptop that's built to perform and designed to last all day? Select Windows 11 PCs starting at $499.99 are now at Best Buy. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
I wrote a little song to remind you Choice Hotels get you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Cocktails up here feel just right. Is Cambria amazing? All right. Bring a date, your team, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com. See you on the roof.
Want to elevate your travel experience? Here's how. With a Delta SkyMiles Reserve American Express card, you can relax before your flight in the Delta Sky Club with up to 15 visits per medallion year. And now through July 15th, 2026, you can earn up to 125,000 bonus miles, so you're closer to your next adventure. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve card. Check out the new design at www.delta.com/Spotify. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply.
This is Let the Record Show, using common sense. Now, here are your hosts, Judge Richard Weinberg,
essayist and commentator Eric Levine,
and Chairman Jesse Garcia.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia, who's attending the absentia, if that's humanly possible, replaced by Governor David Patterson, a common sense Democrat, former governor of the state of New York, lieutenant governor of the state of New York, minority leader for the Democratic Party in the
I think he's
state
one
Senate.
of the last four.
I include me in that. I know you don't include me.
No one believes that. So
Okay.
he's one of the last. It's an endangered species.
That's right. That's why we're being very kind to him. And noted commentator, attorney, essayist, and opinion shaper, Eric Levine.
Or an opinion holder in any event.
That's right. So we're very fortunate indeed to have Carolyn Schenkel, a brilliant lawyer, graduate of Harvard College, Harvard Law School, MIT, a great successful attorney, a dynamic political force, a new force on the political scene. I believe that she's the answer if we're going to have a two-party system in the state of New York, and we desperately need to get away from the one-party dictatorship, especially since momentum is that the Democratic Party has been taken over by the parasitic Democratic Socialists. I think the face and the voice and the hope for the Republican Party in a much-needed two-party system are people like Carolyn Schenkel, and I think she's absolutely remarkable. So, Carolyn, welcome to the show. We're delighted to have you here.
Well, thank you so much, Judge, for that incredible introduction. I'm so honored to be with all of you today. And I think it's such a critical time in history for New York City, but really for our country as we look at this really insane shift in the Democrat Party. And I have to say, when I look at my race, I look at it as more than a congressional race here in New York City. I look at it as a race to save Western civilization. This is what it's become. And it boils down to a couple questions. And that is, are you for New York? Yes or no? Are you for America? Yes or no? Are you for democracy? Are you for prosperity? Are you for freedom? Are you for Western civilization? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then you're with me and my movement. If no, then you're with the socialists and those who seek to destroy our way of life. There's really nothing in between anymore because the Democrat Party has been captured by the socialist left.
So one question you left out was, do you hate Jews in Israel? That would be a question.
That's a litmus test. You can't be a Democrat anymore unless you hate Jews in Israel.
Well, what's interesting, though, is that in your race, Michael Lasher, your opponent, is not a Jew hater. He doesn't hate Israel. I mean, he is the exception that kind of proves the rule. So he's not a member of the DSA. I mean, everything's relative. So he's a moderate in the scheme of things. I guess it's pretty easy to be moderate compared to Zohran Mamdani. But so what's the strategy for you to run against someone like Michael Asher as opposed to if you're running against, Chevalier, who thinks that not only does Israel doesn't have a right to exist, it doesn't exist. Lasher's a little less insane. What's your strategy?
Well, the issue is, Eric, it doesn't matter what my opponent says on these issues, because here's the important part. We saw what happened in New York City here on Tuesday with the primaries. So it doesn't matter what my opponent says. He will end up voting with the far left. He will vote with the socialists. He will end up voting pro-Hamas, anti-Israel, because if he doesn't, he will be primaried. He will sell out because this is where the Democrat Party is today. The anti-Israel lobby is very powerful, as you know. So if my opponent wins, which he won't, I'm going to win, but as a thought experiment, if he does end up winning, and if he does not sell out on Israel and the Jewish community, and if he does not bend the knee to Mamdani and this dangerous socialist agenda, Mamdani will recruit someone to primary him like he did in these other districts on Tuesday. And let's remember that my opponent has been a government bureaucrat his entire life. He's never worked a day in the private sector, so you know his goal is to win this seat and then hang on like his mentor, Jerry Nadler, did for 34 years. And in order to do that, he will have to vote the socialist agenda to appease the far left in order to stay in power.
And to that point, I think that's a very good observation. But to that point, if Hakeem Jeffries wants to be leader of the House, he's going to need the support of all the radical lefties. Zoran's going to have to say okay to his fellow DSA members who are now going to Congress, support Hakeem Jeffries, and he'll only do that. He'll only do that if Jeffries agrees to adopt the DSA agenda. So to your point, someone like Michael Asher will have no choice but to be caught up in the DSA agenda and their policies and the far left shift.
That's exactly right, Eric. There is no such thing, unfortunately, as a moderate Democrat anymore. The party has been completely captured by this radical far left socialist agenda, which is anti-American. It's anti-West. It's really similar to the way that I look at anti-Semitism, which is inherently anti-West and threatens all of us as Americans because it threatens the very values upon which our country was founded and our Judeo-Christian tradition. So we really have to look at this seriously, take this situation seriously. And I think you can remain a Democrat and still observe what's going on and recognize that we have to do something different at the ballot box this November. We have to shock the system and send a message to the world that New York City will not fall to socialism and this very dangerous agenda. New York City, I believe, is every American city. It's every person across the world. It's this beacon of opportunity to everybody across the entire world. And we have to maintain New York City as this beacon of opportunity. We're not going to be able to do that if we keep electing people like our mayor, like people who will fall to the mayor's agenda. We have to build this robust counterforce to stand up for American values, to stand up for free enterprise, to stand up for opportunity. That's why I'm running. That's what I'm aiming to do. And I truly believe that if New Yorkers are given this real choice on the ballot, which I'm giving them, they will do the right thing.
I mean, it should be remembered that Hakeem Jeffries endorsed Zohar Mamdani under the theory of the Democratic Party is a big tent. So let's understand what that big tent now includes. It includes advocating for the genocide of Jews. It includes advocating for the destruction of the Jewish state of Israel. It includes it includes anti-Semitism as being part of the mainstream of the American body politic. So, and it includes making communism legitimate. So we all remember growing up when we went to the circus and the big tent, but the freak show was outside. It was always kind of on down an alley. It wasn't under the big tent. Now, I would like to have thought that the freak show would have been kept outside, but now, of course, the freak show are the ringmasters. And to me, one of the main culprits here is the silence of Chuck Schumer. The guy's been absolutely absent in the witness protection program from the explosion of anti-Semitism on college campuses, not just across the country, but in particular in New York colleges and universities. The guy's been absolutely silent under the theory that I can contain these people, I can control these people. He is now, and the Democratic Party now, is being consumed by this anti-American, communist, Jew-hating cult that is living in the dead carcass of the donkey of the Democratic Party. But we are here with Governor Patterson. I want to give him an opportunity to speak to that.
Well, I think that in the case of this particular race, Michael Lasher, I did not find him to be shying away from that discussion. I wouldn't say he was a leader in trying to condemn anti-Semitism and some other issues. But I find in these situations, candidates do have to think about how they're going to win. So what I would suggest to you is that if you're thinking about how you're going to win, I don't think you're going to win by running right into his strong point.
What's his strong point?
Well, his strong point is...
I'm not utterly insane.
His strong point is that he does represent the values of Democratic candidates, trying to combat poor housing, crime, unemployment, and underemployment, poor and inadequate health care facilities. He's on board on all these situations. Now, he might tiptoe a little when it comes to this, but he didn't really do that much in his primary victory, and I don't think he's going to do it that much in the general election.
Well, I would say that, I think he likes to tout his experience. I think somebody who's never worked a day in the private sector, somebody who's really been an apparatchik his entire life, and has been part of the leadership of New York when there are so many problems facing us in our daily lives, from the crime to the socialism to the anti-Semitism to the out-of-control cost of living. My opponent has been in a position to address those issues. We still have all of these challenges. What has he really done? And let's remember, in his primary, even with a $10 million boost from Michael Bloomberg, 61% of his own party actively voted against him. So I think this is indicative of a huge opportunity for an outsider like myself to challenge this career bureaucrat. And not to mention, my opponent did endorse Mamdani, and he does support Mamdani.
That's very important. Very important.
Yeah, absolutely critically important.
Yes.
He's never condemned his anti-Semitism. He's never condemned his anti-Israel sentiment. He's never condemned his socialism or his
Why
communism.
isn't he at the coffee shop in Brooklyn?
Yeah, one
Well,
that,
sure.
the
Why
one that
isn't he-
wouldn't let Dan Goldman in because he was Jewish.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Carolyn, let me tell you from my perspective and the reason you're so important. This race is bigger than one congressional district. This is about the future of this country. It's about the future of the Republican Party as a countervailing force against these extreme ideological views of the Islamists and the Democratic Socialists, who are really, in fact, communists. So when I tell people that we have a great candidate in that district and we have an opportunity to have a terrific congressperson, but I also say it's even as terrific as Carolyn Schinkel is, it's even bigger than that, because you really are the face of a new emerging Republican Party, the building up of Republican Party as a countervailing force against this radical parasites who've taken over the Democratic Party. People should understand that. If they want more of the same, then they should vote for the permanent bureaucrat and give him another gig. And I have nothing against the guy. I've never met him. I don't know him. But to me, this is an opportunity. And if they're not voting for you, this is a lost opportunity, not just for the people you'd represent in the Manhattan district, but all across the state and all across the country. What are your thoughts?
Well, thank you, Judge. I think you laid it out perfectly. This is a congressional race, but it's really much more than that. It's about saving New York City, but it's really about saving our country and preserving the values upon which our country was founded. And I truly believe that New York City is not a socialist city. I think what we saw with these primaries were a bunch of lackluster candidates, low voter turnout, even after record amounts of money and special interest money being spent in these primaries. But the larger issue is we need good people stepping up with the right ideas, the right background, the right professional experiences to challenge this narrative. Because if we don't, and socialism is the only thing left on the ballot, then what are voters going to do? So that is why I'm running. This is the modern day Manhattan Project. We are going to get this done. It is a critical transformational time in history for New York City. And I believe that if New Yorkers are really presented with a choice on the ballot, free enterprise versus failure, private sector, robust experience versus a political bureaucrat and somebody who really represents the failed status quo versus somebody who's going to be focused on building the future, New Yorkers are going to do the right thing. And I would encourage all of your listeners to take a look at my website, carolinefornewyork.com, to learn more.
And if they want to make a campaign contribution, how do they do that, Carolyn?
They can also
Governor,
do that.
put your checkbook away. There you go.
Thank you, Governor. Yes. They can also make a campaign contribution through my website very easily at carolinefornewyork.com. And all donations are so appreciated as we build up our resources to really fight against this destructive anti-American agenda.
Well, Carolyn, on behalf of Governor Patterson, Eric Levine, and myself, it's been an honor and privilege having you on the show. You're exactly the breath of fresh air that this city, this state, and this country needs. I believe you're going to win. I hope you're going to win. I think it's very, very important for Democrats of the traditional values of this country and independents to rally around you and to be supporting you. It's very important for the future because a missed opportunity may never come back again. And it's very important to support you. You will be the face, in one capacity or another, of the emerging and strong Republican Party as a countervailing force against the extremists. So thank you for being on the show with us.
And Carolyn, just to add, when you were listing the issues that face this particular campaign that just ended, you might want to add when the primary day actually is. Because in the district right next to yours, the 13th, in that district, 700,000 people live there. You need that for a congressional district. But the winner of the race, who unseated the Congressman Espaillat, got 32,000 votes. So she got 32,000 votes out of 700,000 that live in her neighborhood. And I think part of the problem was that in primaries, you just don't see the TV ads and the fierce battle that you see in a general election.
Well, November gives us a big chance to elect a highly qualified person with real experience, real education, real ability, real integrity. So my vote, ladies and gentlemen, is for Carolyn Schenkel. Thank you for being with us, Carolyn. God bless you, and we'll look forward to having you again as the campaign unfolds.
Well, thank you so much for that, Judge. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here today and to spread the message of what we're trying to build in New York City. It's really a common sense movement to restore the power of private enterprise to New York City, to restore hope to New York City. We are still the greatest city in the world, but we've got to keep it that way. So that's my mission. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carolyn.
This is Let the Record Show. We'll be back in but a few moments for our final segment of this week's show. Please stay with us.
This is Let the Record Show.
It's 1938. The 2-week pay period is invented. But then the world got faster. Faster travel, faster delivery, faster everything. Except our pay. Until now, with daily pay, everyone can access money they've earned when they need it. Yes, this is the future of pay. Daily pay. Work with the leader in on-demand pay at dailypay.com. Transfer fee may apply.
Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
And we're live on match day as Doug reaches for a buffalo wing. He's got it! Oh, and he's gone for a can of Pepsi too! What a finish! There's no doubt about it. It just tastes better. Match days deserve Pepsi.
Suffering from dry, tired, irritated eyes? Don't let dry eyes win. Use Sustain Pro. It hydrates, restores, and protects dry eyes for up to 12 hours. Sustain Pro. Triple action dry eye relief.
This is Let the Record Show. Now, here are your hosts, Judge Richard Weinberg,
essayist and commentator Eric Levine,
and Suffolk County Republican Committee Chairman Jesse Garcia.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show. Chairman Jesse Garcia is in absentia today, but he'll be back, he promises, next week. With us is Governor David Paterson, the former Democrat governor of the state of New York, lieutenant governor of the state of New York, and Democratic minority leader of the state Senate, and noted attorney, commentator, essayist Eric Levine, and I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Well, we've had two very interesting guests, but it's up to us to close out this week's show, gentlemen. I just want to raise an issue, and I want to turn it over to Governor Paterson. I think Trump, in many ways, has been a successful president. He's done some very important things for this country. He's closed the border. He's putting a nail in the coffin, or trying to, of wokeism. He's fighting to protect American values. He's confronted, but he hasn't completed the job of the existential threat of Iran. He's moving the economy along. He's trying to make us energy independent as well as independent from natural resources, and trying to keep us up in the battle with China for AI domination, which may be the future of the world, AI domination. It's between us and China. What troubles me, Governor and Eric, is this. I think it's time for Trump to restore a positive relationship with America's allies and spend less time making nice to our adversaries. I don't like what Trump did with Vance at the White House when they had Zelensky there. I thought it was insulting, it was demeaning, and encouraged and emboldened Putin, who thought that Trump and Vance were in the tank and were going to sell out Ukraine. I thought that was awful. I think when he's rude to the Italian prime minister, who was a close friend of his, and they got along famously for a while, if you have a disagreement with an ally, you should do behind closed doors, quietly and nicely explain the differences, try to find and share common values and strategies, and work together. You don't try to go public and embarrass people. he's pulled the stunt throughout this recent weeks with Israel and Netanyahu. He loves him. He doesn't love him. He's done this. He's wrong. He's stupid. I've saved you. You know, he's missing the point. You can't make nice to the North Koreans. You can't make nice to the Russians. You can't make nice to the Iranians. You cannot make nice to the Chinese. You cannot make nice to the Venezuelans. And you can't make nice to the Cuban regimes. You have to confront the evils that they represent and work with your allies to either overwhelm them or at least contain them effectively. And I think Trump loses a lot when he gets involved in what I consider sophomore or even high school problems with people who don't go along with him or don't amen him to death. Governor, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are very similar to yours. Remember, as we said in a previous segment, he said that the war was over. He said that we had shut down all of their ground artillery, that we had blown up their airplanes, that we had stopped them from throwing the kind of napalm or whatever it was they were doing. And then it was as if he forgot about what he said because they started back up again. And, of course, that caused us to start back up again right in the middle of June. So I just don't understand. I sometimes feel that he's bored when he's president, and his way of keeping himself entertained is to do these things like have a housing bill right on his desk. It's bipartisan. He can take all the credit. The Democrats were not fighting over the fact that he was taking all the credit. And what does he do? He says he won't sign it, and he won't sign it until they pass Citizenship for Voters. Citizenship for Voters is a good bill, but why does it have to go in front of this? And I just don't understand.
And you and I talked about it this morning with John Catsimatidis,
right,
in the 6 to 10 a.m. show. The fact of the matter is, you had a victory there. You could declare a victory on a bipartisan bill. It's a pro-housing bill. People want to deal with the issue of housing and affordability. You should wrap yourself out there. You give the congressional delegations, Republicans and the Democrats, something to say. We've done something bipartisan. It's good for the country. It's good politics for the Republicans. Now, what has Trump done?
Yeah, and the amazing thing is, during that show on Thursday morning, Bill O'Reilly was on the show, and he agreed completely
with us,
with what the two of us said.
Then he must be right.
And then he has to be right. But
who, Bill O'Reilly or the president?
No. On this one, Governor Patterson and I are right, and Bill O'Reilly said the same thing.
Okay.
Yes. So I agree with you. I don't know what the people who are close to him are saying to him, because sometimes he just seems to go off the rails, and there doesn't seem to be a method to the madness. Now, in the past, he would act mad, but then there was an agenda that came after that. Now he just gets mad, and he takes a couple of days off, and he gets mad again. And I don't understand why he's doing it. I don't think he's necessarily hurting the country. I'm not saying that he's, having some kind of mental issue or something like that. I just think that he is misjudging what some of his actions have been, particularly in the last 6 weeks.
Eric, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like this housing bill. I mean, there were parts of it that I didn't support. I mean, I'm not sure it's a great idea to prevent private equity firms from buying private homes and rebuilding them.
I understand that.
I think that increases the housing stock and drives down prices. There's more there's more out there to buy. So, supply and demand. The larger supply, their prices go down. So there were parts of that bill that I didn't support, but I think the president's point was, and you may disagree with the manner in which he's going about it. He's all in on election integrity, as I think we all should. I support the Save America Act. I think you should be able to prove that you're an American citizen. I think you should be required to show a picture ID to prove that you are who you say you are. And I don't think that it makes sense, like we're witnessing in California. They're still counting the ballots in the primary race from weeks ago, and that undermines election integrity. So I understand the point. So does it make sense to tie the two together? reasonable people can differ, but I understand
let me tell
the point
you
he's
what.
trying to make.
No. Let me separate this out. Whether you agree with all the components of this housing bill, it doesn't matter. It was a victory. It was a victory that he could have declared and wrapped up and had a bipartisan bill, and the members of the House and the Senate could have waved it around and say, look at us, look what we've accomplished. And they'd wrap around the mantra of affordability in housing stock. Okay. But what he's done is he linked it to a bill that they don't have the votes to break a filibuster. That's the whole key. In other words, he's pushing it where Thune, who's majority leader who wants to work with him, doesn't have the votes to get it done. The only way they can get it done is by breaking the filibuster or modifying the filibuster rules.
Right, but they don't have the support in the Senate for. I agree with that.
So what he's asking for, in a very real sense, is Trump is asking for the impossible, and somebody who understands the legislative process needs to explain that to him. Thune cannot deliver on this. He can wrap it around any bill he wants. It will still not get through as long as you need 60 people to do it. Now, you could modify it a little bit, and a suggestion to the president is simple. Have a conversation with Thune and do what they call a talking filibuster. So what's a talking filibuster? Instead of you have to demand that you have a full attendance in the room, demand that whoever speaks has to continue speaking, and it always has to be somebody continuously speaking. And then through the rules committees, what you do is you limit the time for discussion and debate. And Governor Patterson, you were the leader of a legislative body.
Yeah,
does that make sense to you?
We had. I don't remember us actually having a filibuster where one person was speaking, but we had a filibuster where we would just keep,
But you can from a rules committee, what you can do is it goes on the floor. You'll say you have 18 hours of discussion and debate, and then all discussion and debate is over.
Yeah, but you still run into the problem of then when the Democrats are in control, that they can do a similar kind of thing, and then all of a sudden D.C. becomes a state. Supreme Court has 13 or 70 Supreme Court justices until they have enough to do whatever they want to do.
We've talked about this before. I'm deeply troubled by this issue of election integrity. I'm deeply troubled by blowing up the filibuster. Because once the Republicans do it, you're giving carte blanche to the Democrats to do it, and they will push through anything. The rebuttal to that position is they're going to do it anyway, so we might as well do it
right,
first.
But as we've had this discussion with Jesse, the only time it really makes any sense or any poses a real threat is if a single party controls both the White House, the Senate, and the House. Otherwise, doing away with the filibuster, it doesn't get you anywhere, because if you control the Senate, you do away with the filibuster, but you don't control the House, the Speaker isn't going to put it on the floor, won't get voted on, it goes nowhere. If you control both houses of the Congress, but you don't control the White House, who cares? It'll get vetoed. So there has to be this perfect storm of controlling the Senate, controlling the House, and controlling the White House. And it's certainly possible that you can have one party doing that, but I just think the way the landscape is, I still see one party or the other controlling one of those branches, at least in the foreseeable future.
Well, it's time to wrap up this week's Let the Record Show. I want to thank my good friend, His Excellency, Governor David Patterson, for being on the show.
He is our grand-eyed, exhausted, mystic ruler.
and despite the rumors I've tried to circulate, he is not the new Republican National Chairman or the New York State Republican Chairman or the campaign manager for Carolyn Schengel for Congress in Manhattan. Despite everything I've done, I can't get that done. I want to thank Eric Levine, who not only will not do that, but will walk across the street and go back to being a practicing lawyer and making a living. So I want to thank Eric for sharing his time away from making a living for his beloved family. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. We want to thank you for listening to this week's show. As always, God bless you.
Just want to, Richard, was this your way of trying to get me a raise? Is that what that was?
I'm working on it.
Okay,
I'm working on it. God bless you. God bless your families. And, of course, God bless America. Look forward to being with you again on next week's Let the Record Show. Thank you for listening.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
A burst pipe, a dead water heater, the AC calling it quits. Who do you call? HomeServe is an easy way to handle unexpected home repairs with plans covering stuff basic homeowners insurance usually won't. Instead of scrambling for a contractor, you make one call to get the repair process started. Join the millions of customers who trust HomeServe right now. Go to homeserve.com/podcast for 50% less your first year. That's homeserve.com/podcast. Savings compared to renewal price. Void in Florida.